I just got my new vintage clock and barometer, and they're made by Howard Miller, who was a clockmaker, I think between the 1950s and the 1970s. And so this clock and barometer was made sometime during that time span. And I got a really, really good deal on these. And when I ordered them on eBay, the barometer needle was pointing at 28 inches for the barometric pressure. And if it was really 28 inches, then that would be like being in the eye of a Category 5 hurricane. So I was suspect that the barometer wasn't working. I mean, obviously it wasn't 28 inches on the barometric scale. And so I was thinking, well, the barometer may not work. It said the clock ran. And the crazy thing was the description on eBay was totally different than what the photograph showed. The description said that the clock was battery powered and that it was a quartz clock, which it's not. It's a wind-up clock. And so I was worried that I might not get the clock and the barometer that I was hoping for, which were these. And but sure enough, they sent these, and that's what I wanted. And so normally you would pay, I don't know, somewhere between $200 to maybe $400 a piece for each one of these. I've seen them even higher than that. And but they only wanted $59. So I was kind of thinking, yeah, I'm probably going to get ripped off. And it said that the clock ran good, but again, the description was not anything like the photograph. So I just went ahead and took a gamble and ordered them. And so, so this is what I got. And so the first thing I did was I wound the clock up a little bit. And sure enough, it started running. And it ran great. And it ran really good. And it kept time good, and it chimed on the hour and the half hour, just like it should, ship's bells. And so I was real excited about that. And then the barometer, I tried to adjust it because there's a calibration screw in the back through this little hole here. And I couldn't get the screwdriver to stay in the slot of the adjustment screw because the adjustment screw is real long, and it's even though you got to go into the hole with a screwdriver, when I ended up taking this apart, the screw sticks way out and it was flopping around. So I'm thinking, well, that's probably broken. So I took it all apart and turned the adjustment screw, and I thought maybe it's just not calibrated, and I just need to calibrate it and maybe it'll work. So I turned the adjustment screw and calibrated it, and then I went online and found out what the barometric pressure was locally at that time and set the needle for that setting. And sure enough, it went to that setting, and it works. And so I did a couple videos. My past couple videos were the other 2 clocks and 2 barometers I have on this boat. One was from my previous boat. One came with this boat when I bought it. And if you watch those videos, you'll see I had problems with the clocks and the barometers. Both clocks had really strange batteries in them, which didn't make sense. And one of them, the battery was so small that it wouldn't last very long in a quartz clock, and I had to change it all the time, and I had to unscrew it from the bulkhead, from the wall, and take the clock down to change the battery, and the battery you can't just buy anywhere. The other clock that I have is a Chelsea, and it had a C-size battery, so you can't buy C-size batteries anywhere either. Nobody uses them for anything. And so both of those clocks were a problem. Both of those barometers that I had, also the needle would hardly move. if it was going to rain, it just an eighth of an inch or so one way, and if it was going to be sunny and warm, and it'd move an eighth of an inch the other way. And both barometers did the same thing, which was crazy. So this barometer moves. It actually, I watch it. I can watch it and watch it move and track the barometric pressure online to see how accurate it is, and it's holding up pretty good. I'm just waiting for some rain. It's been dry now for over a month, and it's the middle of January. And so when the storm comes in, I'll be able to tell just how good it works. But it appears to be the needle actually moving farther than it really should, which is totally opposite from the other barometers that I have, which is good. That's fine. It doesn't matter. And but the clock, so it ran for about 24 hours, and it kept good time, and it was great. And then all of a sudden, it stopped running. I thought, okay, well, I just need to wind it again, because I didn't wind it very much. So I wound it a little bit, and it turned out it was already wound almost all the way up. So it started running again, and it ran for, I don't know, an hour or so, and then it stopped. And it started again, and it'd run for a little bit, and it'd stop, and then pretty soon it would maybe run for 20 minutes and then stop. And now it runs for about 10 minutes and stops. And so what's up with this clock is it's old, and it needs to be rebuilt, cleaned and rebuilt. And so what happens is that it has a lot of gears in it, and the gears, they go through a plate that the gears sit on. And each gear has a little spindle that goes into a hole in the brass plate, and there's no bearings of any kind in these where these gears connect. So over time they wear out. You put clock oil on these parts, to lubricate them, but still there's no bearings, and eventually it's just brass rubbing against brass, and they wear out, and the gears get sloppy. And the main clicker part that spins back and forth that clocks have. Can't think of it off the top of my head right now. There's a name for it. But it has a ruby that for its bearing. I can see it on the top, but I don't know what the bottom is. But it probably may be the same thing. But it does have a real ruby, and they don't wear out so much. So that's why they when you see a watch and it says, like my dad's old watch I have, says 17 joules. Well, the joules are just little gemstones. They can be diamonds or rubies, but hard stone like that, because diamonds are the hardest element, and diamonds will cut glass, and it's crystallized carbon, so it's very strong. And so that's why they use gemstones in clocks and watches, and at least they used to. It's hard to find older watches nowadays. Everything's quartz. So I'm going to have to do some work on this clock, and so I'm going to look into getting parts for it. I know I can get parts for it, and I'm going to try to rebuild it myself, which is going to be a challenge because it's really complicated inside, and there's a lot of gears, and so I'm going to have to be real careful when I take it apart. I'll photograph every step and also film it so I can make sure that when I put it back together, I'll know what goes where. And so that's the plan. Unfortunately, the clock is a problem. The barometer seems to be fine, which I'm real happy with that. But I look at it this way. I only paid $59 for both of these. So that was a hell of a deal. And just the barometer, it's definitely worth it. So, but I really like the clock, and I definitely want to keep it. And it's beautiful. It's just, they're both gorgeous. They're in really good shape. They pretty much look brand new. And I'm going to go ahead and set it so the clock's bell rings so you can hear it. It's got a really nice sound to it, and it's interesting that it's such a deep sound, because normally you think of bells are like tubular bells or chimes. They're like a tube, and a hammer would strike them. And so to get a real low sound, low frequency, you need a big long chime. And so it's like, how could they get that low sound in such a small size? And it turns out that the chime is actually a steel coil. So it's a round coil. Kind of looks like the coil, like when you wind up a clock, it's got a coil like that. It's kind of like that. And the hammer strikes that coil. So if you uncoil it, it'd probably be, maybe it'd definitely be probably over a foot, maybe about a foot long or so. And so I'm going to go ahead and run it to we're almost at the it's not running right now, and this is not the correct time, but this face opens up, which is really nice because it has a key, so you wind it up, so I'll never have to take it down from the bulkhead when I mount these things. You just open the front here like this, and it has a key, and you can wind up the clock, and you can also wind up the part that chimes. So I'm going to run it forward here and see what it does. Real nice sound. Okay, I'm going to run it up to the 12. And run it back down to the 6, so it only chimes on the half hour. And you'll notice it doesn't chime the actual time. It's kind of encoded, so you got to kind of learn it. See, it's different. It'll chime 4 sets of 2, so that's like eight strikes at the most, and it goes from 1 to 8. But just what a great sound. I love the sound of it. Okay. I think that was 7. And that was 8. So that's how it sounds, and it's really cool. So yeah, one of my future projects here soon is going to be tearing this thing apart and trying to rebuild it and see if I can get it back together and see if I can make it work. So that'll be a future video. And so I just need to get the parts. I'll have to look into it when I take it apart and see what I need. I think there's going to be some like shims that I have to get to punch into the brass plate, the part that's wore out, so it'll fix the sloppiness of the gears. So at any rate, overall I'm real happy. Unfortunately the clock didn't work. I wished it did, because then it wouldn't have been one hell of a deal at $59. With tax and shipping, I think it paid $74 or something and change, so $75. So yeah, real good deal. And so if you found this video to be helpful or entertaining, please like and subscribe. There's that damn train again. Drives me nuts.